You're listening to From the Chair, and I'm your host, Mike Hamilton. Join us each episode as we talk to athletic directors from across America. We're going to talk about topics like leadership, career development, issues of the day, and I can promise you we're going to have some fun along the way too. So sit back, listen in, and let's dive in. Let's go. Mike, good afternoon. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Michael. It's good to see you.
Man, always good to be with you, and so glad you were able to join us for a few minutes today as we kind of just talk about a few things, both around Charlotte and your brand, but also just nationally. And so thanks for spending a few minutes. We appreciate it.
No, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I was thinking here in prep for this, you grew up in the shadows of a college football stadium, right? And if I recall correctly, one or both parents actually maybe were professors on campus or taught on campus. And so if we had to dial it like way back, would you say that those were the early stages of you beginning the track towards where you are today?
There's no question. There's no question. That's exactly where I fell in love with college athletics. And, at a very early age, knew that I wanted to have a career in the field. I grew up in Clemson, where my father was a professor there. My mom was a school teacher. And, I just grew up around all of it. I mean, I went to everything that they had, Clemson had, and was a huge fan. I sold game programs at the football games, used to go to their sports camps in the summer. My mom used to laugh because she'd give me $5 for the week spending money at the camp, and I would come back with a souvenir from the camp. She's like, "You live here. You don't need to buy a souvenir from the Clemson basketball camp." But it was awesome. I loved it. I painted tiger paws on people's faces when I was in high school. You earn $100 a game, wandering around the lots and then going to the game. And so, I fell in love with it all there. And, that was at the time, that was when the ACC, only had 8 schools. FSU had not joined the league yet. Georgia Tech had just come on board, but you had some incredible coaches in that league in basketball. That was, Dean Smith and Mike Krzyzewski and Lefty Driesell and Jim Valvano and Terry Holland. And I mean, it was every game, they would come in, someone would come into Littlejohn and it was a big deal. So that was where I developed my passion for it and still have it to this day, man. We're so lucky to have a chance to work in this crazy business.
There's no doubt. Well, for sure, I would think if you sort of looked at your career trajectory, you would have to say that your time at Florida was another big moment in your timeline, and working with one of the greats, the legends in the business, and Jeremy. And I was reflecting on the staff that you guys had there during your time there with you and Steve and Chip and John and the Gator Boosters, and just an unbelievable group of folks. And Linda, but Jeremy leading the way. And I know he's been a guy that I've looked up to for so long when we'd sit around AD meetings, SEC meetings in Destin or wherever, as having a lot of sage wisdom and always defending the Florida brand. So, I'd like to just hear sort of about his influence on your career, you personally, and the things that you took from your time there at Florida.
Well, Florida really shaped me as a professional and as a person. I spent 24 years of my career there, my life there. I really grew up. I grew up in Clemson, but I really grew up to be the person I am today based on my time in Gainesville. And it was an incredible experience. I'm so grateful for it. I'll never, ever, ever forget it or take it for granted. The things that we were able to experience as a team. And like you said, there's so many amazing people who've been a part of that program. Future ADs, Greg McGarity went on to be an AD at Georgia, from there as well as another one I think of. And, Laird Veach, Laird's now the AD at Memphis. And we just have some really talented, great people there who, not only were administrators, but coaches. You think about the greatness that, we had a chance to be around, Billy Donovan and Steve Spurrier and Mary Wise and Becky Burley and just Mouse Holloway. I mean, I'm going to leave somebody out and get in trouble because there's so many of them who've won championships. I think about Olympians, Mouse Holloway and Greg Troy, swimming and track. I mean, just on and on and on, the number of coaches and athletes, Tim Tebow and Joakim Noah and Abby Wambach and Caleb Dressel and Ryan Lochte. You got to be kidding. I mean,
Unbelievable.
that's like, I got to be around some people who, if most people, if they had a chance to be with one of those in their career, would feel blessed. So, I say all that not to brag, just to say I recognize how lucky that I was and that we were to be a part of a program like that. And, it all starts with the guy you mentioned, Jeremy Foley. Jeremy's the one who, really took that program to heights that had never before been seen. Interestingly, I actually had Jeremy here on our campus here at Charlotte last week to speak to our coaches and to our senior staff. It's the first time we brought him here to speak to our staff in the 3.5 years I've been here at Charlotte. And honestly, I'd sort of been biding my time to invite him. And COVID got in the way too. But I really wanted to sort of get established here and get settled before I brought him in. But man, the messages that he reinforced with our group was really powerful, and so you reflect on the impact that he had on so many, not just me, but all the staff and all the coaches and all the student athletes. And think about this. So when he was the AD at Florida, 130 Southeastern Conference championships, 130, 27 national championships. That's,
Wow.
I mean, that's incredible. Okay. And so, and you think about like the all sports trophy in the SEC, I think in the 23 years he was the AD, the Gators won it 22 times. Oh, by the way, that league's pretty good. It's loaded
Yeah.
with schools that are some of the best in the country, and in the Directors Cup to finish, it's the only school in the history of the Directors Cup, 33 years, I think, to finish in the top 10 every single year. And most years it was top 5 under his leadership. So, I'm putting all that out there just to say the results speak for themselves based on, his tenure. And but it goes so much deeper than that. Just his impact on me as a person and as a professional, and so many others. His leadership. I've learned almost everything I've learned about leadership. I learned from him, either directly or by just observing and watching and participating in so many coaching searches, crises that we managed. And even earlier in my career, when I wasn't necessarily in the inner circle yet, and I was just sort of, working my way up within the organization, just to see how he operated and how he evolved as a leader,
Yeah.
Was tremendous.
Yeah. Would you say what are the one or two things maybe you would point out as sort of the critical factors for leadership that you took from him? What specifically what you might have learned from him in the way of leadership?
Well, I think that there are a lot of lessons. One is it's in the end it's about people. This is about people, and so you have to invest in people. And it's when I say invest, it's not just making sure you give people raises. You gotta care about people. You gotta pay attention. I would say, you don't have to be a micromanager, but you have to understand what's happening, what's going on. You have to care. And so Jeremy demonstrated that day in and day out. He cared about people in a way that's uncommon, and knew about people. Whether you were the head football coach or the assistant marketing director, he knew your name, and he knew something about you too. Like he would stroll into your office. Seriously, you could be an assistant ops person, and he'd roll in there and start busting your shoes about your favorite Major League Baseball team. He's a big Red Sox fan, and so he'd give you heck if your team wasn't doing well, right? But he knew. And so I think that was a big piece of it, is just, people are motivated when they feel like they are a part of it. And they feel a part of it when leadership recognizes people as people and not just as, objects who perform job duties. And so I think that's a huge piece of it. I think, expectation of excellence is another important part of, the leadership style that he had, and what we've tried to bring here to Charlotte is just, it's not okay to just be okay. Like, we're in this to be the best we can be, and that sounds sort of obvious, but honestly, it's not always the case within organizations. People sort of can sometimes fall into bad habits, old habits, become complacent. And you recognize in this business, I mean, we're here to graduate student athletes, and we're here to win championships, and we're here to engage our university's constituents. That's why we do what we do. And so, if you're not doing all you can to try to compete for championships, I don't know why you do what we're doing. And so there was an expectation that, being average was not good enough. And certainly at Florida, even being above average really wasn't good enough. You had to be
Yeah.
excellent. You had to
Yeah.
be excellent. So, and then I think having a passion for what you do, is another huge, huge piece of what he talks about still to this day is, you have to have an energy, a relentless energy and a passion for what you do, for your people, for your mission, and for the people who you serve. And so, in the end, and I could go on a list of, I could talk all for a whole hour about the leadership lessons, but I think those are some of the key ones that I learned from him.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this, having known you for a long time and having seen your experience at Florida and the success you guys had, to me, I'm sure you would have had, you have had a number of different chances to move to somewhere, to be an athletic director. And for me, my observation is that you've got the perfect match between yourself and where you are now. Not only your Carolina's roots, but just the energy that you exude and the kind of school that I've experienced Charlotte to be historically. I think it's a really great match. So as you looked across the landscape and this opportunity came up, what was attractive to you? I know you've been in the job now 3 years, so it's not like you got this job yesterday. But what was the alignment for you with this particular university when you were looking?
Professionally and personally, it just seemed like such a great fit. So, because I was at a place for so long, and I can't say that was necessarily by design. And when I first started at UF, I don't think I ever envisioned I'd be there for 24 years. But I had the opportunity every few years to grow as a professional in that organization and take on new responsibilities. So I didn't leave, and there were some opportunities to get involved with some other searches, and I got involved in a very small number. The vast majority I didn't even get involved with, and that's the case with a lot of the other senior staff members at Florida, too. Who've been pretty selective or choosy because it's in the business that we're in, it's kind of the pinnacle. Florida is like the pinnacle of what we do, and so I was not willing to just pick up and leave for just anything. And to me, quality of life is really important too. Like I want to know that I can be happy, my family can be happy living where we're going to live, and it's about the job. But it wasn't just, oh, I've got to be an AD. I want to have the title, because I've often said this: the road is littered with really talented, smart, great administrators and coaches who took bad jobs, where there's a lack of alignment on campus. Maybe there's a lack of resources, and it's not a false, and it's a false hope that you can be great. It's not a false hope here at Charlotte. What I saw when I came here to interview, I was blown away by the beauty of this campus. I was blown away by the potential, and I say that, and I hesitate because all of our fans and all of our supporters here, we've talked about, we're going to stop talking about potential. We're going to start realizing our potential. But this is what I saw when I arrived here 3.5 years ago. Just in a professional sense, it just seemed almost too good to be true. Like the foundation that had been built here by Judy Rose, my predecessor, who did a phenomenal job of building beautiful facilities here on our campus, including our brand new on-campus football stadium that's right in the heart of our campus. It was just obvious to me. And I love that, this place had a tremendous basketball tradition in history. Final Four, a lot of NCAA tournament appearances, but also had started football. And so that excited me as well. And so on the professional level, seeing the alignment that I felt when I met with the chancellor at the time, Phil Dubois, and the cabinet and the board, that's the only way you have a shot is if you have alignment. And I felt that existed here. And then on a personal level, the quality of life, come on. I mean, Charlotte is such a great place to live, and it was a chance to get back to the Carolinas for me, which, and obviously love my time in Florida, but the Carolinas are home for me. This is home for me. I own a home in Blowing Rock, an hour and 45 minutes from here in the mountains. I love the mountains. I bought it 8 years ago when I was in Gainesville. So, to when I got this job, my friends back home in Gainesville were like, "Wait a minute, how close is your mountain house?" I'm like, "It's less than 2 hours," and they're like, "That's amazing." And so to have a chance to take advantage of that, so my dad and stepmom moved back to the Clemson area. They live right outside Clemson and Westminster. I have family still in Charlotte. This is where my parents grew up. They grew up in Charlotte. So, it was just like, come on, the personal piece of this coupled with this professional opportunity, the time was right. The time was right. So I look back at my experience with incredible fondness at Florida, but the reward that we have gotten here by being in Charlotte the last 3.5 years has been spectacular, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I have three separate questions that I was going to ask about this next thing, but as I listen to you, I'm not so sure that they don't all three tie together. So let me pose these three pieces of thought, and then you can bring it home, right? So I was going to ask you, as an institution, I think there's 7 FBS programs in the state of North Carolina. You're in a city where professional sports is a significant piece of the landscape. So how do you go about finding your place in that Charlotte landscape? That's the first question. The second is, I know that you guys have just gone through an extensive rebranding process, both in athletics and I think at the university level. And so how does that dovetail with that, or the reason behind that? And then thirdly, you mentioned the starting of the football program, where your board and Judy and everyone sort of helped launch that in the 2010, 2013 timeframe. And then obviously it launched in 2013. And then now you've come in and you're putting fuel to the fire, an assessment of sort of like, where are you guys in your timeline for where Charlotte football can be now and what's to come? And so that's a lot. And that may even take the rest of our time, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on those things.
Well, I agree. I think they are all related, particularly as we see the landscape of college athletics now and what we are as a program. I think, we, are in a market certainly that does have a lot of alumni from various schools who reside here, mainly from the ACC and some from the SEC, and so we understand we coexist with that, but we are Charlotte's hometown team. Okay. And we can be that. For those who went to other schools. At the same time, we also have 80,000 alumni that live within an hour of our campus. Those are major numbers. We have 152,000 living alumni, 80,000 of which live here in Charlotte. And yes, we have other FBS programs throughout this state and in the South Carolina. We're right on the border. But we don't worry about that. I mean, yeah, you do a SWOT analysis, and of course you can say here the yeah. Threats, et cetera. But let's focus on us for a second. And that's what we really try to do here. Let's focus on what we have to offer. This is a great sports city. Okay. You mentioned, the pro sports here. You got the Panthers and the Hornets and the Charlotte Knights and the Checkers. And, now we've got, Charlotte FC from MLS. That's all great. I mean, this is a city that loves its sports, cares about sports. And we've got amazing partnerships with those franchises. So, which really helps our program, right? But our institution, we're the fastest growing university in the state of North Carolina. There's 17 schools in the state system, all right? And we are currently the third largest school now in the state at 30,488. For the third straight year, we set an enrollment record. We have a record freshman class of over 4,200 this year. Last year, we had a record freshman class of over 4,000. This is in the middle of a pandemic, and this is happening here, and the growth of this institution over the past decade is responsible for almost 50% of the growth of the entire UNC system. So you tell me that we don't have something special going on here. We do as an institution. It's a beautiful residential campus. We have about 7,000 students now who live on campus, and another 15 to 16,000 that live within a mile of campus at, student focused apartments, right? And so it's just an incredible amount of momentum we have as a university, and the drive that we have to be, something. Our provost said this to me the other day. I think it's a perfect word for it. I mentioned all the change that we're experiencing. She says, "I'm not sure I'd even call it change. This is a metamorphosis." And I said, "That's why you're the provost. You say things like metamorphosis." But it's true. I think that's a great word for it. We are experiencing a metamorphosis here at this university. And so, part of the rebranding that we went through this past year in athletics, and you see the helmet behind me with the All NC, with the pickaxe inside the C, and on my shirt the CLT, is to connect us to our city, to connect us to the city of Charlotte. And so we are Charlotte's hometown team, and that is how we've branded ourselves, and it's taken root so quickly. Those processes are hard. I mean, they take a lot of work by a lot of people, but it has taken root, and we were looking for a simple, clean, memorable design that would resonate, and it has absolutely done that for us. And if you put our marks now up against others at throughout Group of Five or the P5, we look like we belong. We do, and so it's a really clean, fresh look for us. And you know what? A year into it, the university said, "Hey, you know what? It's working for athletics. Let's adopt it for the institution." Talk about alignment. To have that opportunity to have your university adopt the mark that athletics have been using. So it's no longer the athletics mark; it's the university mark, the All NC. So just so much positive energy and momentum going on here. And then the football piece, thankfully football was started, and we had our first season 9 years ago. I think there might have been a chance football would have started sooner. There were some other factors in the 2000s, actually including 9/11, among other things, that caused setbacks, and the financial crisis that caused setbacks to football along the way. But we have it now, and we are on a rocket ship, as you said. I mean, Will Healy, what Will has done here in two seasons in one game, and I don't even count last season. I mean, I only account the sports that had great years last year in COVID, because the ones who struggled, I mean, they had real reasons to struggle. I mean, so we're sitting here right now 2-0 in football. Our first ever win over an ACC opponent, our opener in a full house on national TV. We beat Duke on a thrilling comeback win, and then to follow up with another win last weekend. We go to our first ever bowl game 2 years ago under Will's leadership in his first season here. There's a lot of excitement and a lot of momentum around our football program. And I think Chris Fuller, our deputy AD, who we brought on board when I started here just a few months afterwards, summed it up best for me, because he actually came here from Syracuse, where he was the deputy AD. And I know Chris, and you worked with Chris for a long time at UT. You hired him. He came in and he saw this campus, and he had lived in Charlotte previously in another lifetime when he worked for the ACC many years ago. He saw the campus, and his comment to me was, he said, "This is an emerging brand in an exploding market." And that's the perfect summary statement of what we are. And I think it shows in every way that you look at our university and every way you look at our athletic program.
Yeah, that's a great summary of the whole deal. Yeah. So you mentioned Chris. I've got to give him a shout out for just a second. I actually texted him last night, and I said, if you could say one thing about Mike that you've experienced to be consistent, what would it be? And he just said, Mike Hill is true to his values, and he lives them out every day. And I think in today's world where, there are a lot of people that don't, Mike, you know that, right? And so that's one of the greatest compliments someone could give you. And I know what type person he is, and to bring Chris in as a seasoned guy who's been in some great roles in some great places. And, he has not been an athletic director at this point, but I think could very well be one if someone, would just take an extra look, right? And he's got all the qualities. But my point is this: I know you guys have known each other for a long time, and he's been around a long time, but you saw the opportunity to bring in someone who had a vast amount of experience, and alongside you in your first role as athletic director, you did that for a reason, right? And so tell me a little bit about that.
Well, so we have a fantastic staff here that I inherited when Judy left. And, there was some transition the first year, because that happens, right? You have new leadership, and some people decide to stay, some decide to go, but the core of our executive team, remained. And but we knew that we had a significant hole to fill on our staff, and that was to oversee external. And I remember this at the time, trying to identify what we wanted to do there. I mean, Chris Fuller would have been at the top of the list at any point. I just didn't think we could get it. I mean, he's deputy AD at an ACC program, and Chris and I have known each other forever. We've been friends for 30 years, but never had a chance to work together at the same place. We worked together in the same league when he was at Tennessee and I was at Florida, but never on the same staff. And so we knew we needed to hire someone in the external area. And, I was having a conversation with him. Frankly, it wasn't to try to recruit him. It was just to talk about life and the job. And, it was obvious to me after sort of talking about this role I was looking to fill that he might have an interest in it. And I was kind of taken aback. I said, Chris, I don't know if I can afford you, here at Charlotte. I didn't bring the Gators budget with me, unfortunately. So, but, we kept talking, and the more we talked, and then when he came down to visit in person, it was pretty obvious that this could be something really special. And yeah, I mean, for me to be a first-time athletic director, I mean, I don't care how long you've been in this business, and I've been in it a long time. The first time you were actually in the chair is just different. I knew that. I knew that coming in. There were going to be things I'd never seen or dealt with before, and to have as much experience around me would be invaluable. And like I said, there's some great people already here on our exec team. Darren Spees, the CFO, has been here a long time. Chris Thomason, we hired Reagan Hill as our SWA and executive associate, who replaced Kim Whitestone, who had done a great job for us as well. And then you bring in a guy like Chris Fuller. I mean, we announced that and my phone just blew up. I mean, people across the country are like, holy cow, are you kidding me? How did you do that? You guys are going to make a formidable team. And I do believe that is the case. It's like having another AD on our staff. Chris Fuller is an AD. He should be an AD right now. It's a crime that he's not. And at some point, some smart chancellor is going to give him that chance, and they'll never look back. But, for now, we're going to take advantage of the fact that we have someone of his talent and of his character and his strength and his experience on our team. And it's a joy to work with him. I mean, it really is. The other thing about Chris, as you know, is he'll tell it like it is. And he's not afraid to tell me if I'm dead wrong, which he does a lot. And, and we have really healthy conversations and healthy debates, but it's respectful because we respect one another. And I think it's just been a really great match for our university.
That's awesome. Well, hey, look, Mike, I could go, there are a lot of different ways we could take this conversation, right? Pandemic, NIL, realignment, transfer portal, whatever. And I know you don't have all day. I do want to ask you just real quickly about NIL as it relates to Charlotte and what you're seeing, and then we'll close out with a couple of fun questions. But, so this answer may have been different a month ago, and it may be different a month from now. But as you begin to live in this world of name, image, and likeness, and we're in our third month of the reality of it all, as it starts to settle in, what are you seeing from your chair there in Charlotte?
I think people are still finding their way a little bit, and this thing is going to continue to evolve and grow over the next few months and years. I'm thrilled that we're finally at a point where we're actually able to put it into practice. And we all knew from the outset, and even before the outset, when we were trying to figure out what the heck the rules were going to be, that there would be some trial and error, and there would be maybe some unintended consequences, and we'll work through that. But it was the right thing to do. It was the right decision to make, and so I'm thrilled for our student athletes and for student athletes across the country to have that opportunity. And I think for us, we're excited because at a place like Charlotte, we've got a ton of Fortune 500 companies here, and like you said, an exploding market. There are going to be so many opportunities for student athletes in Charlotte versus maybe some other programs that are based in smaller college towns, where it's why we have 80,000 alums who still live here, because there are jobs here. There's business here. There are corporate headquarters that are here. So we're going to see these opportunities grow, and we continue to educate our student athletes as a part of our Greenlight program. And, again, we're just getting started. I think that, obviously the opportunities that we see at our level right now versus what you might see at Ohio State are not the same, right? They're not, we knew that. They're not going to be the same right now. But I think over the course of time, we're going to see those kinds of NIL opportunities for 49er student athletes evolve to something that's really exciting for them as well.
No doubt, man. Well, great community will be very helpful to all that, right? So, hey, let's spin in a couple just quick hit questions, fun stuff as we go out here. So you were in Florida for a quarter of a century,
Wow.
East Coast or West Coast. And when you went to the beach in Florida, where was your place that you like to head out to?
Well, I'd get in trouble if I said anything other than the Gulf Coast because my wife is from Tampa. So I'm going
Yeah.
to say the Gulf Coast, man. And there's so many beautiful beaches in Florida. I used to spend, a decent amount of time over at St. Augustine and Crescent Beach. It was kind of a hop, skip, and a jump to get over there. It was shorter than getting to Tampa and the Gulf. But so I love Crescent Beach, but then obviously the Gulf is beautiful. I mean, it's just so serene, and the Gulf it's very different than the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah. So you have a young family, and then you have an older son. And so if I said, what do you do to relax? Is that taking the family and going up to the mountains, or what is that for you?
That's exactly the answer. Anytime I have a chance to get up to Blowing Rock, to our home, especially, and in fact, in a week and a half, that's exactly what's going to happen with my family. We just had a baby boy 5 weeks ago, and we have a 2-year-old daughter, and then my son, who is a sophomore at the University of Florida, Luke, is going to be coming up to see our football game on Friday night, the 24th, against Middle, and then we're going to head up the mountain on Saturday and spend a couple of days up there together. So there's nothing like it for me. That's my happy place. It restores my soul to get up there to Blowing Rock and to sit out there on the deck and enjoy life.
We share that. We share that love of the mountains, man. So this is a dangerous question for somebody in your role of influence in the state of North Carolina, because I'm going to ask a pork barbecue question. Okay. So obviously in South Carolina, it's mustard based. In the Piedmont, it's ketchup based. In Eastern North Carolina, it's vinegar based. What wins the day for Mike Hill?
So you're going to think this is odd because again, I've got a place up in the mountains in the western part of the state and grew up in South Carolina, the northwestern corner. But I love the eastern base. I'm a big vinegar based guy, and I love to cook. I love to grill. So nothing like smoking a Boston butt and pull that thing apart and do a little vinegar sauce on there with some crushed red pepper. Man, it's the best.
That's awesome. I also share that with you, by the way. You may not have known
See,
that.
I know you had
Okay.
good taste, Mike.
Yeah. So, all right, last question. I know you're a music lover too, Mike. And so it's two-part question. So the first one is, if someone were to look at your Spotify playlist or your iPhone or whatever, what's the band on there that it might surprise folks that is a regular, occurrence on your playlist? Number one. And then number two, given, let's call it face value dollars. What's the band that, given the chance to see live, you're going to try to go see every time possible?
Okay, well, people who know me well know the answer to number two for sure. I'm going to start with your first one though. Is there a band or a musician that would surprise people? I don't know if it would surprise people, but I do love music and I love live music, and that's another joy living in Charlotte. There's so many great venues. It's been really hard the last 18 months not to go and experience it. I love to go to concerts. I love Cage the Elephant, as I'm a big fan of Cage the Elephant. I also like Vampire Weekend. Nathaniel Rateliff. Those are some groups that performers that I really like a lot. And then there's no question my favorite band, I would go every time possible, is the Avett Brothers. And of course, they're right up the road here from Concord. And I've seen them over 20 times in concert. And that's not nearly enough. Like, I can't wait to go back and see them again. And they're just, their music brings joy to my life and have for a long, long time. But live music is important to me, and yeah, it's going to be great when I can feel comfortable going back to a concert venue again.
No doubt. Well, the next time you play Middle in the Nashville area, you come over a day early and we'll go catch some live music together. How's that sound?
I love it, man. I will take you up on that for sure. You can count on it, Michael.
All right. Well, hey, look, thanks for being with me today, and appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us.
No, it's my pleasure. I appreciate it so much, Mike. Thanks for everything you do, man.
All right. This has been From the Chair with Mike Hill from Charlotte, and I'm your host, Mike Hamilton. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time.